Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. So as this video goes live, it'll have been a couple of months since I last put a video up on this channel. Just took a much needed break, and honestly at the start it was for an undetermined amount of time. I was feeling pretty burnt out and things had just gotten away from me a bit. And I actually go into detail about this in a newsletter that I kind of relaunched at the start of that break. I'll put a link to it below, but just talking about in that first issue, social media and noise in the online space, and also just the importance of where you place your focus and how it can either kind of give you energy or take it away from you. But the break was hugely helpful and just kind of gave me a chance to step back and look at what's working and what isn't, and kind of figure out a better approach moving forward. And as a result, I've actually just been enjoying photography a lot more than I have in quite a while, and also really been enjoying the video making process. I have a bunch of videos I've been working on that I'm quite excited to share, some 4x5 stuff, some printing videos, and also some recent road trips. But as I jump back into things, I figured rather than just like launching straight away with one of those videos, it'd be cool to do something like this where I give a bit of an update, but also talk about a bunch of other things that I've been doing over that time, just some different camera systems and tools that I've been working with, but also some projects that have kind of materialized over this time that were a little bit unexpected, and just some of the takeaways from all of that. But I think we'll kick this off by talking about some of the different gear I've been trying out. So there's 3 cameras in particular that I've been working with. 2 are just based on having a chance to test them out, and 1 is a new camera that I purchased for myself for some long-term work. Okay, so first up is this, the Pentax 17, and this is actually a camera that I'm working on a longer review about. It'll probably be up shortly, so I'll kind of save my in-depth thoughts for that video. But I've had this for a couple weeks before it was launched. I've been working with it ever since, and it's actually been one of the most challenging cameras to review that I've ever had, for a couple of reasons. But like my overall thoughts, I think the best way to sum it up is, you know, I love the fact that Pentax went and built a brand new camera from scratch. Obviously, I think that's really exciting news and something that I never would have anticipated happening when I got back into working with film in 2017. But as much as I love what they've gone and done, I don't love the camera itself. So I've been shooting with this now for probably about a month. I've gone through about 4 rolls, which for me is a lot. It takes me forever just to get through a roll of 35, let alone in a half frame camera. And as much as the camera itself is good and performs fine, there are a bunch of things that I'm not a huge fan of, especially when you factor in the price of it. And in a way, to me, this is similar kind of to the Harman Phoenix film situation, where it was incredibly exciting news, and I love what Harman's doing, you know, developing and releasing a new film, obviously, and I think that we will see different iterations and better versions hopefully in the near future. But the film itself, I'm not a huge fan of. So anyways, we'll see where it goes. It's exciting news, but yeah, the camera itself, not the biggest fan of. So the second camera is this one right here, the Mamiya 7 II, and this is something that's always interested me, but I've just never had a chance to use. Recently though, a buddy of mine, Neil, he actually has a YouTube channel. He's been on this one last year in a video. I'll put a link to his below. But he was kind enough to let me borrow this long term. And it's been fun to work with. You know, not being a rangefinder person and this being an expensive camera, it just never made sense in the past to go and buy one. So to have a chance to borrow one and just work with it longer term has been really cool. I might do a review in the future, but I'll share some initial thoughts right now. So I'm always curious with cameras that are really popular or hyped up if they're going to kind of live up to their reputation. And for me, the Mamiya 7 quickly won me over. First off, when it comes to the size and the handling, you know, as someone who's used to working with a Pentax 6.7 or RB6.7, pretty large cameras, I was actually really surprised how much smaller, lighter, and comfortable this felt. In a way, it almost seems like a medium format point and shoot. Obviously not from like an operational standpoint, but just compared to those cameras, how this one feels in the hand. So I took this with me on a week-long road trip to Wales last month, and it was just really enjoyable to shoot with. Just like a lot more comfortable and more manageable. And maybe I'm just getting more picky as I get older, but for a 6x7 camera, this was a really nice change. So next up are the lenses. And again, when it comes to reputation and hype, you often hear people say that these are some of the best medium format lenses ever made. And I will say, you know, they didn't disappoint. I have the 80mm here, the 50 on the camera. Those are the two lenses that I have for the system. And I use the 80 probably for like 75% of the images I shot. The 50 did start to win me over, even though it's a little wider than I normally shoot with. But regardless, both of these performed really, really well. The negatives and obviously final scans were incredibly sharp and detailed. And just the size of these as well is pretty awesome for medium format, especially when you compare them to SLR lenses. But overall, you know, with the final images and the look I was able to get, when you factor in also the sharpness, I was just really happy with the images I made with this system. And I get it. Like, I understand the appeal. You know, if you're someone who's into rangefinders, you have this compact body that's really comfortable to use, paired up with some pretty amazing optics. The big negative, though, for me, and this isn't the camera's fault, it's more so personal, is just when it comes to framing. So I've always spoke about how I prefer an SLR over a rangefinder just because I like framing through the lens and I feel like you can be more precise. And for whatever reason, and maybe this is something that I get better at with practice, but for the life of me, I could just not frame things straight with this camera. I was always having to go and crop and tweak a little bit. And in some situations, I was like way out, which was kind of hilarious. I don't know how I was that far off because I was obviously trying to be pretty careful while shooting. So yeah, for that reason, I don't know if I could ever make the switch completely from an SLR to a rangefinder, as much as there's a lot that appeals to me with the Mamiya 7. So anyways, fun one to work with. Up next, I'm going to talk about a camera system that's about as far away as you could get from a Mamiya 7, completely opposite, but one that I've been having a ton of fun with. But first, just have to talk quickly about the sponsor today, which is Squarespace. So one of the things that I started to focus more on lately is my website. For me, it's so important to have this dedicated home for my work and a place that I can see projects come together and where I can also experiment with things. And Squarespace has been great for that, a big reason being its flexibility and its ease of use. So earlier this year, I did a complete refresh on the site using their blueprint builder. And this allows you to build your site from scratch, but it gives you different page designs and layouts to choose from, font pairings, color palette options. And then it also gives you complete control so you can easily do things like add new galleries, change image sizes, add thumbnails, or even add an online shop, something that I'm currently working on for some upcoming print offerings. So check out squarespace.com today, sign up for a free trial, test it out, and when you're ready to launch, you can use my link below, which will save you 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. So next up is a tool that I've just been having a ton of fun with, and something that I bought somewhat recently for my own long-term personal work. That is the DJI Mini 4 Pro. And honestly, this is something that I would have never imagined myself using to make photos with. So I actually wrote about this in an issue of my newsletter, but a while back I picked up Stephen Shore's latest book, which is called Topographies. And this is a collection of aerial images from across the United States that he made, I think, at the start of the pandemic, using like pretty much a consumer drone. And, you know, being a huge fan of Shore's work, when I think about him, you know, I picture someone using like an 8x10 or a 4x5 large format camera, not someone using like a fairly inexpensive drone. So for me, this was such a great reminder about the importance of not getting too attached to like specific tools and things that you think you should use. Say, like I can only shoot with film or I need to shoot large format, and rather just look at the tools that are out there and available to us and what opportunities they could provide for you. But also just looking at that book, it really made me kind of interested and curious to go and experiment. I've owned a number of drones in the past, but always just used them for video work. I never thought about their potential for photography. So instead of overthinking it, I just went and I bought this, like I said, DJI Mini 4 Pro. This is not a professional drone. It's got a very tiny sensor, but the image quality is like surprisingly good, especially if you're using it for, say, smaller prints or obviously for web use. And it's allowed me to just get out there and play around. And right now it's just like purely something that I'm doing for fun, but it has opened my eyes to the potential and how something like this can allow you to go and create images that have a greater impact than, say, if you were using a different tool. And a great example of this is the other week I went out to photograph this slag heap pile in South Wales. I've been out there a few times with the 4x5 camera and always struggled to feel like I was creating something that showed off its impact. But all of a sudden, I made this one image using the drone, which really helps kind of show its place in the landscape, and to me was a lot more impactful. So this has just been a ton of fun. I've been bringing it with me on trips, throwing it up in the air, and just playing around, experimenting, and making some images that I'm quite happy with so far. So we'll see where it goes, but this has been a fun one. So when it comes to projects, over the last couple of months, I specifically didn't focus on projects at all, more so just wanted to get out and shoot and detach. And what's been really interesting is, as a result of doing that, there's actually been a couple of projects that have revealed themselves naturally to me. And I want to talk a little bit about that. So as mentioned, with the Mamiya 7, I went on this big road trip. I went up to North Wales and basically drove straight down all the way south. And I ended up shooting 12 rolls of film, which for me is quite a bit, and just had a really enjoyable time, detached, not worrying about making a video about the entire thing. And I got home, had the film developed, started to scan it. And as I started to look at the images I made, it inspired me to go and revisit some of the older work that I've made since moving here to the UK. And for the first time, I started to realize that I've slowly been compiling this body of work, and it started to feel very similar to my approach that I took with my first book, An American Mile. So for the first time ever, this made me realize the potential for a follow-up project to An American Mile, which would be called A British Mile. Just a similar approach, take the next couple of years and just keep working my way, through the UK, up to Scotland, documenting the landscape and see what comes of it. But the reason I want to share this story with you is because this isn't something that I ever thought of until about 3 years down the road. And without knowing it, I've kind of just been building up this body of work purely by following interest and intuition. And this actually happened to me again quite recently. So as mentioned, I've been doing a couple 4x5 videos, and for those I've been kind of touring, doing these day trips in England and in South Wales, and have ended up at a couple old garages and have made a couple of images that I'm quite happy with. And as a result, while I was looking at the images on the computer after these trips, it's made me realize that, again, over the past few years, I've actually been documenting these old service stations and auto garages and just these places and establishments that have a certain character to them and that are kind of slowly disappearing. So we'll see where that goes. But the point with this one again, and A British Mile, is that as someone who always likes to try and plan things out as much as possible, these have been a really good reminder that projects can also just reveal themselves over time. Again, if you follow your intuition and your curiosity and what interests you, and you make enough images, I think eventually you will discover something that you're pretty excited about. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way, and sometimes maybe there's a balance, but it's not all about sitting down and trying to figure out what you want to do beforehand. Sometimes you just got to go out and make the work for a long period of time, and that's when you'll find what you're looking for. So yeah, those are some of the things that I've had going on, and overall just feeling really excited about photography and really enjoying making these videos again, more than I have in a really long time. And that's cool to see because, like I said at the start of this break, I was kind of unsure about my future with YouTube. And ever since starting to do this channel full time, it's been a huge learning experience, and it's gotten away from me a lot of times just overthinking and overanalyzing and worrying about performance, which all leads to just struggling to make videos and ever get ahead. But also, like I said, just being a little bit burnt out with some places in the online world. There's some specific platforms where there's just a lot of noise, especially recently. I think intense gear drama and gear debates and people giving out hot takes and just all this stuff that I have no interest in. So this break for me was a really good reminder, like I said, about the importance of choosing where you place your focus and focusing on the things that kind of give you energy and help you grow as a photographer and even just get you excited about photography. So yeah, excited about things moving forward. And just to jump back into this with a change in approach, I have videos scheduled out for the first time in forever slowing down the volume a bit, just trying to get more consistent, and also opening up space for a bunch of other stuff. Got this newsletter going, some workshops I'm planning out right now, and a few other things in the mix that I hopefully will talk about soon. And yeah, that's been on the to-do list for a while. Bring some better balance and find space for other stuff as well. So anyways, that's it for this one. Thank you as always for watching. I appreciate the support and yeah, just the interest. And I'll see you again pretty soon with another video.